The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor, crimson liquid spreading like blood across the white stone. Dante Choi stood frozen in the penthouse hallway, his hand still gripping the doorframe as muffled sounds of passion leaked through the cracked door of his private office. His heart hammered against his ribs, each beat a war drum announcing the death of everything he thought he knew. Through the narrow opening, he saw her. Isabella. His fiancée of 2 years, the woman who wore his grandmother's diamond on her finger, was straddling someone on his leather couch. Her white silk blouse hung open, her head thrown back in ecstasy as she moved with desperate urgency. But it was the man beneath her that turned Dante's blood to ice. Victor. His identical twin brother. The face that mirrored his own, twisted now in pleasure as Isabella gasped his name like a prayer. God, you're nothing like him, Isabella moaned, her fingers digging into Victor's shoulders. Dante's so cold, so controlled. You make me feel alive. Victor's laugh was low and cruel. 3 more days, baby. Just 3 more days until New Year's Eve, and eclipse is ours. Everything he built, everything he owns, it all becomes ours. Dante's hand moved instinctively toward the gun holstered beneath his Tom Ford jacket. The weight of it was familiar, comforting. 1 bullet for Victor. 1 for Isabella. Simple. Clean. Justice delivered the way his world had always operated. A small hand gripped his wrist with surprising strength, yanking him backward. Dante spun, rage flooding his vision, ready to silence whoever had witnessed his humiliation. But the woman standing before him wasn't one of his security team. It was Zara, his mixologist, her dark eyes wide with urgency as she pressed a finger to her lips. Ogre, not now, she whispered in Yoruba, the language of her Nigerian homeland, before switching to perfect Korean. Danger. Trust me. I know things. Dante stared at her, this woman he'd barely noticed in the 8 months since he'd hired her. Beautiful, yes, with skin like polished mahogany and an intelligence in her eyes that suddenly seemed far too keen for a bartender. She was supposed to be invisible, part of the background of his empire. But right now, she was pulling him toward the service elevator with an authority that made him follow despite every instinct screaming at him to go back and put bullets in both their skulls. The elevator doors closed, sealing them in silence broken only by their ragged breathing. The descent to the wine cellar felt eternal, each floor a lifetime of betrayal replaying in Dante's mind. When they finally reached the bottom, Zara led him into the climate-controlled vault where thousands of bottles worth millions lined the walls. You need to see this, Zara said, pulling out her phone with trembling hands. Before you do something that gets you locked up or killed. Who the hell are you? Dante's voice was granite, each word sharp enough to cut. Someone who understands betrayal. Zara's fingers moved across the screen. I came to Korea to escape pain, Mr. Choi. I found it waiting for me here too. But I also found evidence. The first video made Dante's stomach turn. Recorded 2 weeks ago, it showed Isabella and Victor in a parked car, their faces illuminated by the dashboard lights. Victor was holding a small vial filled with clear liquid. The fentanyl is untraceable, Victor said on the recording. We inject it into his Macallan 25. He drinks it at the New Year's Eve party, in front of everyone. Heart attack. Clean. Simple. The insurance alone is 80 billion won. Isabella's face filled the frame as she leaned closer. And the embezzlement. Marcus has been moving the money for 18 months. 12 billion won, all offshore. Once Dante's dead, the trail dies with him. The insurance payout covers everything, and we walk away rich and free. Zara swiped to the next video. This one showed Victor meeting with a man in a white coat, an envelope of cash changing hands. Just sign whatever I give you, doctor. Death certificate, toxicology report, everything. My brother dies of natural causes, and you retire to Jeju Island. The third video was dated 3 days ago. Isabella was alone in the penthouse, speaking on the phone. Yes, I'm sure. New Year's Eve. Everyone will be too drunk and too distracted to question anything. Dante Choi, the great nightclub king, overdoses celebrating his own success. Tragic. Poetic, even. Dante's hands were shaking now, rage and grief warring inside him. Why? The word came out broken. Why are you showing me this? Because I need you to listen to all of it before you decide what to do. Zara's voice was steady, calm in a way that grounded him. There's more, Mr. Choi. Much more. And you need to know everything before you act. She played another recording, this one clearly audio captured through a hidden microphone. Victor's voice again, but this time he was speaking to someone else. Marcus Chen. Dante's CFO and business partner for 10 years. The books are clean? Victor asked. As clean as blood money can be, Marcus replied. I've been skimming since you asked me to. Small amounts at first, then larger once I realized Dante trusted me completely. 12 billion won, exactly as planned. Once he's gone, I'll handle the insurance investigation. No one will ever know. And if they suspect, they won't. I've made sure every trail leads to dead ends. Your brother built an empire, but he was sloppy about the details. He trusted too much. That's his weakness, Victor. And it's going to kill him. The recording ended. Dante stared at the phone, his world crumbling around him. Not just Isabella. Not just Victor. But Marcus too. 3 people he'd trusted with his life, his business, his future. All of them plotting his murder. How long have you known? His voice was barely a whisper. 6 weeks for the murder plot. Longer for other things. Zara's expression was unreadable. Isabella sexually harassed me 2 months ago. Cornered me in the storage room, touched me inappropriately, told me I was exotic and she wanted to try something new. When I refused, she threatened to have me deported, said no one would believe the help over her. Zara's jaw tightened, old anger flashing in her eyes. I started recording everything after that. Just to protect myself. But then I overheard things. Conversations that didn't add up. I have a background in chemistry, Mr. Choi. Pre-med at University of Lagos before my fiancé was murdered and my world fell apart. I came to Korea to escape, but I never stopped being observant. I never stopped recognizing when something was poison. Your fiancé was murdered. By corrupt politicians my family couldn't afford to fight. Men who thought they were untouchable because they had power and money and connections. Zara's voice cracked slightly. I watched them walk free while the man I loved was buried. I swore I'd never let that happen again. I'd never watch evil win because good people stayed silent. Dante studied her face, really seeing her for the first time. The strength in her posture. The intelligence burning behind her careful exterior. The courage it must have taken to spy on Isabella, to gather evidence, to risk everything to expose the truth. Why didn't you go to the police? Because I'm a Nigerian bartender on a work visa, and they're rich, connected, and Korean. Who do you think the police would believe? Zara's laugh was bitter. No, Mr. Choi. The only person who could stop them is you. But you have to be smart about it. You can't just kill them. Why not? The words came out harsh. They were going to kill me. Because that makes you just like them. Zara stepped closer, her eyes locked on his. Because murder might satisfy your rage, but it won't satisfy your soul. I've seen what revenge without justice does to people, Mr. Choi. It destroys them. It turns them into the very monsters they're trying to defeat. So what do you suggest? I just let them try to poison me? No. Zara's smile was sharp and dangerous. I suggest we let them think they're going to poison you. And then we turn their trap into their prison. Dante felt something shift inside him, a calculation clicking into place. You want to expose them publicly. I want them to suffer the way they planned to make you suffer. I want them arrested, tried, convicted, and caged like the animals they are. I want their names destroyed, their reputations ruined, their freedom stolen. I want justice, Mr. Choi. Real justice. The kind that lasts. That's not how my world works. Then maybe it's time your world changed. Zara held his gaze, unflinching. You have 3 days until New Year's Eve. 3 days to decide what kind of man you want to be. The kind who puts bullets in people and spends the rest of his life looking over his shoulder. Or the kind who's smart enough, patient enough, and strong enough to win the right way. Dante was silent for a long moment, the weight of her words settling over him. Finally, he asked, what would you need to make this work? Your trust. Your team. And your willingness to play the role of your life. Zara's expression softened slightly. I can't promise it won't hurt, Mr. Choi. Watching them pretend to love you for 3 more days while knowing what they're planning, that's going to be torture. But if you can endure it, if you can be patient, I promise you they'll pay for everything. Dante. What? My name is Dante. If we're going to do this, if you're going to save my life, you should at least call me by my name. Zara nodded slowly. Dante, then. And you should know, I've already started protecting you. 2 weeks ago, I switched every bottle of Macallan in your collection. What they think they're poisoning is actually colored water and vinegar. You were never in as much danger as they believed. Dante stared at her, stunned. You've been protecting me this whole time? Someone had to. Zara's smile was sad. You're a good man trying to operate in a bad world, Dante. You deserve better than to die at the hands of people who claim to love you. For the first time since he'd seen Isabella with Victor, Dante felt something other than rage. It was a strange sensation, unfamiliar and uncomfortable. It took him a moment to recognize it as hope. Okay, he said finally. Tell me your plan. The secret apartment was on the opposite side of Seoul, a place Dante kept for emergencies that no one in his organization knew about except Kwon, his head of security. At 2 in the morning, the space became a war room. Kwon stood by the window, his muscular frame silhouetted against the city lights, a scar running down his left cheek from a knife fight years ago. Dr. Park sat nervously at the table, his hands clasped together as he processed what he'd just heard. And then there was Lila, Dante's younger sister, her tattooed arms crossed over her chest as she glared at the evidence displayed on multiple screens. I told you Isabella was a snake, Lila said, her voice sharp with vindication. 2 years ago, I told you something was wrong with her. But did you listen? No. Because she was beautiful and charming and said all the right things. Lila, not now, Dante said quietly. Yes, now. Lila turned to face him fully. Victor too. Our own brother, Dante. Our twin. The person who's supposed to share our blood, our loyalty, our soul. He's been planning to murder you for who knows how long, and you never suspected. I suspected he was ambitious. I didn't suspect he was a killer. Kwon spoke from his position by the window, his voice gravelly from years of smoking. I'll handle it, boss. Give me 2 hours. Victor disappears in the Han River. Isabella has an unfortunate accident. Marcus gets his throat cut in a robbery gone wrong. Clean. Untraceable. Problem solved. No, Dante said firmly. No. Kwon turned, his expression incredulous. Boss, they tried to kill you. They're still planning to kill you in 3 days. We don't negotiate with people like that. We eliminate them. We're not eliminating anyone. We're exposing them. Lila's eyes widened. You're going to let them live? Are you insane? I'm choosing justice over revenge, Dante said, his gaze shifting to Zara, who stood quietly in the corner. Someone recently reminded me there's a difference. Dr. Park cleared his throat nervously. If you want to expose them publicly, you'll need undeniable proof. The videos Zara collected are good, but a smart lawyer could argue they were edited or taken out of context. You need more. You need them to incriminate themselves so completely that no defense in the world could save them. That's where you come in, Doctor, Zara said, stepping forward. We need you to help fake Dante's reaction to the poison. Make it look real enough that they believe it's working, but controlled enough that we can reveal the truth when we're ready. Dr. Park nodded slowly. I can do that. Medication to dilate the pupils, increase heart rate, induce mild convulsions. It'll look like cardiac arrest, but Dante will be fully conscious and in control the entire time. And I'll handle the technical side, Lila said, her anger transforming into something sharper and more focused. She moved to her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard. I've already hacked Isabella's phone and Victor's laptop. I can see every text, every email, every search. I'll also tap into Eclipse's security system and add hidden cameras in places they'd never think to check. By the time New Year's Eve arrives, we'll have eyes and ears everywhere. Kwon still looked skeptical. This is too complicated. Too many moving parts. One thing goes wrong, and the boss is actually dead. Nothing will go wrong, Zara said with quiet confidence. Because we're going to control every single variable. The bottles, the timing, the location, the witnesses. By the time they realize they've been played, it'll be too late. Dante watched her as she spoke, noting the way the others in the room had begun to defer to her despite her supposedly low status in his organization. There was a natural authority in the way she carried herself, a strategic mind that saw 3 steps ahead. She wasn't just smart. She was dangerous in the best possible way. There's one more thing, Zara continued. We need Victor to confess more than just the murder plot. According to the financial records I've been able to access, the embezzlement started 3 years ago. That's the same time your mother died, Dante. The room went silent. Dante's jaw clenched, old grief rising like a tide. My mother committed suicide. She had depression, she'd been struggling for years. What does that have to do with Victor? Maybe nothing, Zara said carefully. Or maybe everything. I found something in the pharmacy records. 3 days before your mother died, Victor picked up a prescription. It was supposed to be vitamins, but the bottle contained something else. Something that would look like a suicide if taken in the right doses. Dante's world tilted. You're saying Victor killed our mother? I'm saying it's a possibility we need to explore. If he did, if we can prove it, that's first-degree murder. That's life in prison with no possibility of parole. Lila's face had gone pale. Oh my God. I was at the funeral. I watched him cry. I believed him when he said he wished he'd seen the signs, wished he'd done more to help her. And all along, he was the one who killed her. We don't know for sure, Zara cautioned. But we can find out. Victor's cocky, especially when he thinks he's won. If I can get him talking, really talking, he might confess to more than just the current plot. Dante looked at her sharply. What do you mean, get him talking? I mean I need to get close to him. Make him trust me. Maybe even make him want me. Absolutely not, Dante said immediately, his voice harder than he intended. You're not putting yourself in that position. It's the best way to extract a full confession. He sees me as just the bartender, someone beneath his notice. If I approach him the right way, flirt a little, make him think I'm interested, his ego will do the rest. Men like Victor can't resist bragging when they think they're seducing someone. She's right, Lila said reluctantly. Victor's always been a peacock. If he thinks he's impressing a woman, especially one he considers a conquest, he'll spill everything. No, Dante repeated, but even he could hear the weakness in his protest. Zara met his eyes, and something passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words. I can handle Victor. I've dealt with men like him before. And I'll be wearing a wire the entire time. You'll hear everything. If it goes wrong, if he crosses a line, Quan can be there in 30 seconds. But it won't go wrong, Dante. I won't let it. The way she said his name, with that quiet confidence and underlying steel, made something in his chest tighten. This woman, who owed him nothing, who could have simply quit and disappeared, was volunteering to put herself in danger for him. It was humbling and infuriating in equal measure. Fine, he said finally. But you wear more than a wire. Lila, can you create something better? Lila's expression brightened with mischief. Oh, I can do better than better. I'll design a dress with embedded microcameras and audio so advanced that will capture every word, every facial expression, every nervous tick. And it'll look so stunning that Victor won't be able to think straight. When do we start? Zara asked. Tomorrow night, Dante decided. That gives us 48 hours before New Year's Eve. Zara, you'll approach Victor at Eclipse during the evening rush. Somewhere public enough to be safe but private enough for him to let his guard down. The VIP lounge, probably. And what will you be doing while I'm flirting with your brother? Zara's tone was light, but her eyes were serious. Pretending to be the devoted fiancée. Isabella can't suspect anything. I'll play my role perfectly. The trusting fool who has no idea his world is about to explode. Quan grunted his approval. At least let me assign protection to Zara. If Victor tries anything. He won't get the chance, Zara interrupted. But I appreciate the concern. The meeting continued for another hour, each person assigned specific tasks. Lila would handle all technical aspects, hacking and surveillance. Quan would coordinate security and ensure plainclothes officers were embedded in the New Year's Eve crowd. Dr. Park would prepare the medications and coordinate with the paramedic team, who would actually be more of Kwan's people in disguise. And Zara would be the honey trap, the bait that would lure Victor into exposing everything. As the others filed out, Dante caught Zara's arm. Wait. I need to say something. She turned, eyebrows raised. Yes. Thank you. For this. For everything. You could have walked away. Hell, you could have blackmailed me with the information you collected. Instead, you're risking yourself to save someone you barely know. Why? Zara was quiet for a moment, her expression distant. In Lagos, I watched my fiancé die because corrupt men decided his life was worth less than their pride. I watched them walk free because they had money and power and connections. I made a promise at his grave that I would never be silent again. Never let evil win because good people were too afraid to act. She looked at him directly, and Dante saw the depth of pain and determination in her eyes. You're not a saint, Dante. I know what you are, what Eclipse really represents, the grey areas you operate in. But you're not them. You're not a murderer. You're not someone who poisons family members for inheritance. And if I can help stop people like Victor and Isabella and Marcus, then I have to try. Because if I don't, then my fiancé died for nothing. Dante felt something shift inside him, a crack in the armor he'd built around his heart. This woman, this brilliant, brave, beautiful woman, was making him want to be better. Not just for the plan, not just to defeat his enemies, but for himself. I won't let anything happen to you, he said quietly. Whatever it takes, I'll keep you safe. I know, Zara said, and she smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. Because you're one of the good ones, Dante. You just forgot for a while. I'm going to help you remember. Then she left, leaving Dante alone in the apartment with nothing but his thoughts and the growing realization that somewhere in the last few hours, Zara Okonkwo had become far more important to him than any employee had a right to be. Saturday night arrived with the weight of inevitability. Eclipse pulsed with energy, 3 levels of souls elite drowning themselves in expensive liquor and expensive company. Dante stood in his private office overlooking the main floor, watching the crowd through one-way glass while Isabella hung on his arm like a designer accessory. Darling, you seem distracted, Isabella said, her perfectly manicured nails trailing down his chest. Is something wrong? Just thinking about the New Year's Eve announcement, Dante lied smoothly. Selling Eclipse is a big decision. But the right one, Isabella purred. We deserve to enjoy life, not work ourselves to death managing a nightclub. Think of all the traveling we could do. Paris, Monaco, the Maldives. Dante forced himself to smile at her, to lean down and kiss her forehead the way he used to before he knew she was planning his murder. Her perfume was cloying, overwhelming. How had he never noticed how fake everything about her was? The smile that never reached her eyes. The affection that only appeared when others were watching. The way she touched him like he was a possession, not a person. You're right, he murmured against her hair. We deserve everything. Isabella's phone buzzed. She checked it, and Dante saw her expression shift, just for a second, into something calculating and cold. I need to take this. Girl, emergency. You know how it is. She disappeared onto the balcony, and Dante immediately pulled out his own phone. Lila had installed tracking software on Isabella's device. He watched as a text conversation appeared on his screen in real time. Victor, is he suspicious? Isabella, no. Still the same trusting idiot. Monday night, everything changes. Victor, the doctor confirmed the death certificate is ready to sign. Marcus has the insurance paperwork prepared. We're golden. Isabella, I'm so tired of pretending to love him. Of letting him touch me. After Monday, I never have to fake it again. Victor, 2 more days, baby. Then we're free. Dante's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. 2 more days. They were counting down to his death like it was a vacation they'd been planning. He forced himself to breathe, to remember the plan, to channel his rage into something useful. Across the club, he spotted Zara. She transformed herself for the evening, wearing a red dress that hugged every curve, her natural hair styled in elegant curls that framed her face. She looked expensive, sophisticated, nothing like the bartender who usually worked in comfortable flats and a simple uniform. As planned, she was sitting alone at the bar on the 2nd level, sipping champagne and looking like she belonged there. Dante watched as Victor appeared, right on schedule. His brother looked almost exactly like him, same height, same build, same face. But where Dante kept his hair short and professional, Victor wore his longer, swept back. And there was a tattoo on Victor's neck, a small serpent that seemed fitting now. Victor slid onto the stool next to Zara, his smile predatory. "Don't I know you?" Zara glanced at him, her expression perfectly calibrated between interested and aloof. "Maybe. I work here sometimes." "The bartender," Victor said, snapping his fingers. "But you look different tonight." "Not working?" "Night off," Zara replied, taking another sip of champagne. "Thought I'd see what the other side looks like." "And? What do you think?" "Honestly, it's just as fake up here as it is behind the bar. Just more expensive." Victor laughed, genuinely amused. "You're not like the usual crowd. Most people up here are desperate to impress. You don't seem to care. I've learned that people worth knowing don't need to be impressed. They're either worth your time or they're not. And which am I?" Zara turned to face him fully, and Dante watched her expression shift into something that looked like attraction but was really calculation. "I haven't decided yet." In his office, Dante watched the interaction on the security feed, listening through the hidden microphone in Zara's dress. Every word was being recorded, every frame captured in high definition. But watching Victor lean closer to her, watching his brother's hand rest on the bar dangerously close to hers, made Dante's blood burn. "Boss, you're going to break that glass," Quan said from behind him. Dante looked down. He'd been gripping his whiskey so hard the crystal was cracking. He set it down carefully. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're watching another man flirt with a woman you care about." "I don't care about her. She works for me." "Keep telling yourself that," Quan said dryly. "But maybe tell your face too. You look like you want to put your brother through a wall." On the screen, Victor was ordering another bottle of champagne. The expensive kind, the kind meant to impress. He was pouring Zara a fresh glass, his body language open and confident. Everything about him screamed entitlement, the assumption that he could have whatever and whoever he wanted. "You know what I like about you," Victor said, his voice clear through the hidden microphone. "You're real. No games, no pretense. Most women I meet are only interested in what I can give them. And you're not interested in what you can take from them?" Zara asked, her tone light but pointed. Victor's smile widened. "Touché. But maybe we're more alike than different. Two people who see through the bullshit. Who understand that this world is built on taking what you want before someone else takes it from you. That's a cynical view. That's a realistic view. Take my brother, for example. Dante built this empire through ruthlessness, but now he's gone soft. Talking about selling Eclipse, settling down, playing house. He's forgotten that the moment you stop being a shark, you become prey." Zara leaned in slightly, and Dante's hands clenched into fists. "And you? Are you a shark? The biggest one in the water, beautiful. And I'm about to feed. That sounds dangerous. Only for people who get in my way." They talked for another hour, Victor becoming progressively drunker and more careless. He bragged about the Lagos deal, about his business acumen, about how he'd always been smarter than his brother, but Dante got all the credit because he was born first. Just by 11 minutes, but it was enough for their father to choose him as the heir. "Must be frustrating," Zara said sympathetically, being just as capable but always second. "Not for much longer," Victor said, and there was something dark in his voice. "By Tuesday, everything changes. I'll finally get what I deserve." "Tuesday? What happens Tuesday?" Victor caught himself, his expression shifting into something more guarded. "Business deal. Big one. Can't talk about it yet, but let's just say my fortunes are about to improve dramatically." "I like the sound of that," Zara said, placing her hand on his arm. "Maybe when your fortunes improve, you can take me somewhere nice. Show me more of this world you're conquering." Victor's eyes darkened with desire. "I can take you somewhere nice right now. I have a private room upstairs. We could get to know each other better. Much better." "Tempting," Zara said, "but I don't do private rooms on first meetings." "Call it a rule. Rules are meant to be broken." "Some are," Zara agreed. "But this one keeps me safe. You understand, don't you?" Victor looked disappointed but nodded. Smart girl. I respect that. But give me your number. When everything settles after New Year's, I'm taking you to the best restaurant in Seoul. No, scratch that. Tokyo. We'll fly there for dinner. Zara recited a number, one that Lila had set up to forward to a burner phone. I'll hold you to that. Trust me, beautiful. By Wednesday, I'm going to be a very different man. Richer. Freer. Untouchable. They parted ways shortly after, Victor heading toward the VIP section where Isabella was waiting, and Zara making her way toward the bathroom. Dante watched her disappear from the camera's view, then intercepted her before she could leave the hallway. You okay? He asked, searching her face for signs of distress. I'm fine, Zara assured him. His cocky and drunk, perfect combination for our purposes. But Dante, he's planning something for after your death. Talking about being untouchable by Wednesday. We need to figure out what else he has planned. Lila's already on it. She's going through his laptop right now. They stood in the hallway, close enough that Dante could smell Zara's perfume, something warm and spicy that suited her far better than Isabella's synthetic floral scent. He found himself noticing details he'd never paid attention to before. The curve of her collarbone. The intelligence in her eyes. The strength in the set of her jaw. You were amazing out there, he said quietly. The way you handled him, the way you made him trust you while extracting information. That takes skill. I told you I could handle it. Watching you with him, though. That was harder than I expected. Zara tilted her head, studying him. Why? Because he touched you. And I wanted to break his hand. The air between them shifted, charging with an electricity that had nothing to do with the plan or the revenge or the mission. It was purely them, two people drawn together by circumstance but staying together by choice. I felt your eyes on me the whole time, Zara admitted. It made me braver. Knowing you were watching, that you'd come if I needed you. Dante reached up, his fingers brushing a curl away from her face. I meant what I said. I won't let anything happen to you. I know. They were inches apart now, the world narrowing to just this moment, this hallway, this feeling that was growing between them faster than either expected. Dante leaned down, and Zara rose on her toes, their lips almost touching. There you are. Isabella's voice shattered the moment like a gunshot. They sprang apart as she rounded the corner, her expression sharp with suspicion. Dante, I've been looking everywhere for you. And you, what are you doing up here? Aren't you supposed to be working? I gave Zara the night off, Dante said smoothly. She's been putting in extra hours for the New Year's Eve party. How generous, Isabella said, her tone suggesting it was anything but. But perhaps she should leave now. This is a private event. Zara met Isabella's gaze without flinching. Of course, Mrs. Moon. I was just leaving. Enjoy your evening. She walked away with her head high, every inch of her radiating dignity. Dante watched her go, feeling something precious slipping through his fingers. You're too familiar with the staff, Isabella said coldly once Zara was gone. People might get the wrong idea. What wrong idea would that be? Isabella's laugh was brittle. That you're sleeping with the help. It would be embarrassing for both of us. Dante looked at his fiancée, really looked at her, and felt nothing but disgust. You're right. We wouldn't want to embarrass ourselves. Let's go back to the party. He offered his arm, and she took it, satisfied that she'd asserted her dominance. But as they walked back into the VIP section, Dante was already planning. Monday. New Year's Eve. 24 hours until everything changed. 24 hours until justice was served. New Year's Eve arrived with the weight of destiny. Eclipse had been transformed into a winter wonderland, ice sculptures catching the light from 1,000 candles, champagne fountains flowing like rivers of gold. 300 guests in designer gowns and custom tuxedos filled every level, the cream of Seoul society gathered to celebrate with the man they didn't know was supposed to die tonight. Dante stood on the main stage at 11:30, Isabella beside him in a white gown that cost more than most people earned in a year. She was playing her role perfectly, the devoted fiancé gazing at him with manufactured adoration. Across the room, Victor watched with barely concealed anticipation. Marcus Chen stood near the bar, nervously checking his watch every few minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, Dante began, his voice amplified through the sound system. Thank you for joining us tonight. This New Year's Eve is special for many reasons, but primarily because I have an announcement that will change everything. The crowd murmured with interest. Isabella squeezed his hand, her smile never wavering even though he could feel the tension in her grip. I'm selling Eclipse, Dante continued. A consortium from Tokyo has offered 100 billion won, and I've decided to accept. It's time for me to step back, to focus on family, to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Victor and Marcus exchanged glances, their expressions carefully neutral. This wasn't part of their plan, this sudden announcement, but it didn't matter. In their minds, Dante would be dead within the hour, and they'd control everything anyway. But before we toast to new beginnings, Dante said, I want to celebrate with family. Victor, Marcus, please join us on stage. Victor's smile was practiced as he climbed the stairs, Marcus following reluctantly behind. The three men stood together, and a server appeared with a bottle of Macallan 25, the same brand Victor had chosen for the poisoning. 4 crystal glasses were poured, the amber liquid catching the light. To family, Dante said, raising his glass. To trust. To loyalty. To everything we've built together. They all drank. Dante made sure to drain his glass completely, watching Victor's eyes track the movement, watching the satisfaction bloom on his brother's face. Isabella touched his arm, her expression concerned in a way that would have fooled anyone who didn't know better. Are you feeling all right, darling? She asked, her voice carrying just enough worry to seem genuine. You look pale. I'm fine, Dante assured her, but even as he spoke, he felt the medication Dr. Park had given him begin to work. His heart rate increased, his pupils dilated, a fine sheen of sweat appeared on his forehead. All carefully controlled, all perfectly timed. 10 minutes later, as midnight approached and the countdown began, Dante stumbled. Isabella caught him, her fake concern now mixed with real anticipation. Dante. Baby, what's wrong? I don't feel well, Dante gasped, clutching his chest. The medication was making his heart race genuinely now, the sensation uncomfortable but not dangerous. Something's wrong. I can't breathe. The crowd's attention shifted from the countdown to the unfolding drama. Victor pushed forward, his expression the perfect mask of brotherly concern. Dante. Someone call an ambulance. Dante fell to his knees, his vision blurring exactly as Dr. Park had promised it would. Through the haze, he saw Zara near the bar, her face a picture of controlled terror that only someone who knew the truth could recognize as acting. He saw Quan moving through the crowd, positioning himself strategically. He saw Isabella's tears, so convincing, so completely false. Help him. Isabella screamed. Please, someone help him. Dr. Park appeared with his team, the fake paramedics playing their roles perfectly. They loaded Dante onto a gurney, strapped him down, began performing the motions of emergency care. Dante let his body go limp, let his eyes roll back, let everyone believe he was dying. And then, just as they began wheeling him toward the exit, he sat up. The effect was instantaneous. Gasps turned to confused silence. Isabella's tears stopped mid-sob. Victor's concerned expression froze into something almost comical. Dante pulled off the oxygen mask and smiled. I died 3 years ago. The crowd didn't understand, not yet, but Isabella and Victor did. Dante saw the realization dawn on their faces, saw the moment they knew they'd been played. 3 years ago, Dante continued, his voice strong and clear now, amplified so everyone could hear. My mother took pills she believed were vitamins. She died in her sleep. I blamed myself. I thought I'd missed the signs of her depression. But she wasn't depressed, was she, Victor? The giant screens throughout Eclipse flickered to life, and video began to play. Victor in a pharmacy, buying pills. The date stamp showed 3 days before their mother's death. Then Victor meeting with a corrupt doctor, money changing hands. Then their mother's medical file, showing pills in her system that weren't vitamins at all but a carefully measured dose of something far more sinister. You killed our mother, Dante said, his voice breaking despite himself. You murdered her for her inheritance, and I never knew. I grieved with you. I trusted you. And all along, you were the monster. Victor's face had gone white. That's not, you can't prove. I can prove everything, Dante interrupted. Lila, continue. More videos played. Isabella and Victor's first meeting, their conspiracy taking shape. Victor explaining how he'd killed their mother, how he'd gotten away with it, how he planned to do the same to Dante. The affair, captured in enough detail to be damning but edited to preserve some dignity. The financial fraud, Marcus's emails showing 12 billion won stolen over 18 months. And then the final video. Victor with Zara just 2 nights ago, drunk and bragging. I killed our mother. Made it look like suicide. Dante never knew. And in 2 days, he'll be dead too. Heart attack. Clean. Simple. And I'll finally have everything. The crowd was in shock, phones out and recording, the videos already going viral on social media. There would be no covering this up, no expensive lawyers making it disappear. The truth was out, broadcast to hundreds of witnesses and thousands more online. Isabella tried to run. She kicked off her heels and bolted for the exit, but Kwon was there, blocking her path. She spun, looking for another escape, but plainclothes police officers were everywhere, closing in from all sides. No, Isabella screamed, clawing at Kwon as he restrained her. This is insane. He's lying. All of it is fabricated. The evidence has been verified by independent forensic experts, a voice said from the entrance. Detective Shin walked in, his badge held high. Kim Isabella, Park Victor, Chen Marcus, you're all under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, embezzlement, and in Victor's case, first-degree murder of Kim Grace 3 years ago. Marcus dropped to his knees, sobbing. I was forced. They threatened me. Please, I didn't want to do it. Victor said nothing, his jaw clenched, his eyes locked on Dante with pure hatred. This was the face of his twin, the mirror image that should have been his ally, his brother, his blood. Instead, it was the face of a stranger who'd been willing to kill him for money and power. How? Victor finally asked, his voice raw. How did you know? Dante stepped down from the gurney, walked across the stage until he was face to face with his brother. You got sloppy. Arrogant. You thought I was too trusting to see the truth. But you forgot that empires aren't built by fools, Victor. They're built by people smart enough to surround themselves with loyalty that actually means something. He turned, and Zara stepped forward from the crowd. She was still in her red dress, still beautiful, but now everyone could see the small camera embedded in the fabric, the microphone hidden in the jewelry she wore. Meet Zara Okonkwo, Dante said. Forensic chemistry consultant. The woman who saved my life by being brave enough to gather evidence when everyone else looked away. The woman who taught me that justice is worth more than revenge. Isabella lunged at Zara, screaming obscenities, but the officers held her back. You bitch. You're just the help. No one will believe you. They already do, Zara said calmly. Because unlike you, I told the truth. As the arrests were processed, as Victor and Isabella and Marcus were read their rights and led away in handcuffs, Dante found himself standing alone on the stage. The crowd had begun to disperse, guests leaving quickly, not wanting to be associated with the scandal. Eclipse, his kingdom, his empire, would never be the same. But as Zara climbed the stairs to stand beside him, as she took his hand without hesitation or fear, Dante realized something profound. He didn't care about Eclipse anymore. He didn't care about the empire or the reputation or the power. All he cared about was standing here with this woman who'd chosen truth over safety, who'd risked everything for a man she barely knew, who'd shown him what real courage looked like. It's over, Zara said softly. No, Dante replied, pulling her close. It's just beginning. He kissed her then, in front of the remaining witnesses, in front of the cameras still recording, in front of the world. And for the first time in 3 years, since his mother's death, since the loneliness had started eating away at his soul, Dante felt something like hope. The trial lasted 3 months. Isabella was sentenced to 20 years for conspiracy and fraud. Marcus got 15 for embezzlement and accessory to attempted murder. But Victor received 40 years, 20 for their mother's murder and 20 more for the attempted murder of Dante. The judge called it one of the most heinous cases of family betrayal he'd ever seen. Dante attended every day of the trial, Zara beside him, their fingers intertwined. He testified about his mother, about the grief he'd carried, about the guilt of thinking he'd missed the signs when there had been no signs to miss. He cried on the stand, something the old Dante would have been ashamed of, but the new Dante understood that tears weren't weakness. They were proof that he'd loved, that he'd lost, and that he was strong enough to survive both. 6 months after the trial, Dante restructured his business completely. Eclipse became a legitimate entertainment company, no more gray areas, no more questionable dealings. He established the Grace Kim Foundation for Crime Victims, named after his mother, dedicated to helping people get justice when the system failed them. And Zara, brilliant Zara, completed her chemistry degree and joined him not as an employee but as an equal partner. They opened Eclipse Lagos together, a fusion restaurant and cultural center that celebrated both Korean and Nigerian heritage. It was beautiful, successful, and most importantly, built on honesty. 1 year after New Year's Eve, on a private beach in Jeju Island, Dante knelt in the sand and asked Zara to marry him. She said yes before he could finish the question, laughing and crying at the same time, tackling him into the surf where they kissed like teenagers, tasting salt and joy and future. Their wedding was small, intimate, a blend of 2 cultures and 2 hearts that had found each other in the darkest circumstances and chosen to build something luminous. Lila was Zara's maid of honor. Kwon walked Zara down the aisle, the gruff security chief crying more than anyone. Dr. Park officiated, his hands steady as he pronounced them husband and wife. 2 years later, in a hospital room filled with flowers and laughter, Zara gave birth to their daughter. They named her Grace Mi Choi, Grace for Dante's mother and Mi for beauty in Korean. She had her mother's eyes and her father's smile, and when Dante held her for the first time, he wept with gratitude for the life he'd almost lost and the life he'd gained instead. 5 years after that terrible New Year's Eve, Dante stood on the rooftop garden of Eclipse Seoul, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and rose. Grace was 4 now, running through the garden with her little brother David, their laughter the sweetest sound he'd ever heard. Zara stood beside him, her hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat, steady and strong. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked. "Every day," Dante admitted. "But not with anger anymore. With gratitude." "For what?" "For you. For choosing truth when lies would have been easier. For being brave when I'd forgotten how. For saving my life and teaching me how to live it." Zara turned to face him, her eyes soft with love. "You saved yourself, Dante. You chose justice over revenge. You chose to become better instead of bitter. That was all you." "We did it together," Dante corrected, pulling her close. "Everything worth doing, we did together." Their children ran over, Grace demanding to be picked up, David clinging to his mother's legs. They stood there as a family, watching Seoul transform from day to night, watching their empire of light replace the empire of shadows, watching their future unfold with possibility. Isabella was denied parole that year. Victor would die in prison 7 years later, unrepentant to the end. Marcus was released early for good behavior, but he lived a quiet life, forever haunted by his choices. Their stories ended in darkness, in cages of their own making. But Dante and Zara's story continued, growing and evolving, a testament to the truth that sometimes the greatest revenge against those who try to destroy you is simply to live. To love. To build something beautiful from the ashes of betrayal. To choose light when darkness would be easier. Years later, when Grace asked her father about how he met her mother, Dante would smile and say, "She saved my life. And I spent every day after trying to be worthy of that gift." And Zara would laugh and correct him, "We saved each other." Because that was the truth. Not the dramatic truth of poisoned drinks and dramatic reveals, but the deeper truth beneath. 2 broken people who found each other in the darkness and chose to walk into the light together, hand in hand, heart to heart, building a life that honored the ones they'd lost and celebrated the ones they'd gained. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes it wears a red dress and carries evidence in hidden cameras. Sometimes it speaks with an accent and refuses to be silent in the face of evil. Sometimes it simply says, "I won't let you face this alone." And sometimes, if you're very lucky, salvation stays. It builds a life with you. It gives you children who laugh in gardens at sunset. It shows you that the greatest empire isn't built on power or money or fear, but on trust and truth and love that refuses to break even when tested by betrayal. That was Dante and Zara's story. Not a fairy tale, but something better. Something real. Something that proved that even in the darkest night, even when surrounded by enemies wearing familiar faces, even when death seems certain and hope seems foolish, there is always a choice. Choose truth. Choose courage. Choose love. And if you're lucky enough to find someone who chooses you back, hold on tight and never let go. If you enjoyed this story of betrayal, justice, and unexpected love, please hit that like button, drop a comment telling us what you thought of Dante and Zara's journey, and subscribe for more compelling stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. What would you have done in Dante's position? Would you have chosen revenge or justice? Let us know in the comments below.